and say, My Lord, cause me to land at a blessed landing place, for you are best of all who bring to land. The Quran, chapter 23, verse 29. 5 weeks later, the bus slowed down as it came toward the urban intersection, turning right on Greenfield Road. The traffic lights flashed red in perpetuity, the same as all the others I had seen since we entered the city limits. I peered out the window. The landscape was familiar, even though each edifice showed the effects of the Code 51 crisis. Charred exteriors. The boards on windows were busted through, revealing smashed glass and empty space. The graffiti varied. There was the Code 51 culprit hashtag, also Code 51 kills. And I noticed a new one, Will Kill for RZQ. The air smelled burnt. The bus was just as solitary as the city looked, with me as the only passenger. The driver did not speak. He revealed no emotion behind his Ray-Bans. He made a left on Plymouth Road. We slowed even more, navigating through a maze of debris scattered in our path. Crashed cars, broken down and stripped, overturned shopping carts with wheels missing. Very little sign of life. But the houses and lots were all too recognizable, even if the degree of desolation exceeded what I remembered from so many years prior. As we moved gingerly through the landmine of decay, I saw 3 figures in the distance carrying something. We got closer. It was a silver-colored ladder. The figures were boys in their early teens, although they had scarves doubling as masks. The driver gave them no more than a glance and kept his sight on the windshield. As we approached them on the side of the road, I could make out the red letters DFD on the side of the ladder. The teenagers looked straight at me, curiously. Once we passed them, they looked at each other, dropped the ladder, and bolted towards a building. They didn't go in, but they went around the side and disappeared. We proceeded on course for several more minutes, leaving Plymouth Road for Michigan Route 5. Eventually, a sign came into my view, pointing ahead for downtown Hamtramck neighborhood. The route became more industrial. We were close. The bus slowed and maneuvered into a vast, empty parking lot. A placard on the main building read, Packard Automotive Factory. The driver put the bus in park and stared forward. I walked up with my duffel bag, pulled out my phone from my jacket. He extended his device, and we scanned. I sent him the RZQ tokens I had promised for the trip. The transfer registered. He looked at his phone screen, and his eyebrows raised at an apex above his sunglasses. His lips curled up in delight. It was the first sign of emotion from the man. I zoned in on his face, and when I saw he connected with my eyes, I placed my index finger up to my lips, pantomiming a shush. He nodded once. I turned down the steps and exited. He shut the door, revved the engine, and made a wide U-turn out of the parking lot. The bus passed back in front of me and spewed black smoke from its exhaust, obstructing my view, filling my nostrils with burnt gas. I coughed. When the smoke cleared, I saw my heart in front of me. Sophia, Adam, Noor, and Iman. Their clothes were worn. The girls rushed towards me first. Then my son. We hugged. I reached out to Sophia. She joined in. I kissed her. We held tight. Tears flowed. joy, relief. I sensed a tenuous security, but was thankful for this eventual answer to my supplications. They were safe. We were together. But there was more. Behind them, coming out of the factory building, I saw my childhood in front of me. My brother, sister, outside the door of the old factory. They extended their arms. I fell right into them and stayed within their embrace. "Jamila, Jabril, thank God you're alive," I said. "How are Mom and Dad?" "Pretty good given the circumstances," my sister said, wiping a tear from her eye. "Well, don't call it a comeback," Jabril added, looking at me straight. "We missed you, bro. Thank you for that lifeline you sent us." "That's nothing," I said. "That's how we're rolling now. We gotta adapt to stay adept." My siblings both smiled. Then they led me inside the facility. Its interior matched the exterior, roughed up concrete and rusted steel, peeling paint revealing its 120-year-old frame. The lobby area was desolate, except for my parents who stood up as I arrived. We hugged. Then they gathered the children while Sophia, Jamila, and Jabril pointed me to the back of the lobby. The freight elevator was inoperable, but the stairs worked. The children and my parents perched on a bench. The rest of us walked up 7 floors, to the roof. The ascension through the building showed even more rustic corridors and empty loft areas. The building was truly a shell of concrete, but its scent was like old metal. Light beamed through the wide windows with no panes, covered with clear plastic and canvas. We reached a doorway to the top. It opened up to a dusty gray roof and blue sky. It was much colder up there. "Just like you asked," Jamila said, waving her arm in voila as I panned the panoramic view. Yes, perfect," I responded, moving to the center of the roof, still holding my bag. The rest of the family followed me. I knelt down on one knee and unzipped my bag. I pulled out the disassembled drone in 5 parts. Within seconds, I snapped and secured the pieces together. I grabbed a remote, flipped it on. The drone's propellers whirled briefly. Then I turned the drone over and opened up a compartment on its belly, revealing a QR code reader. I took out my phone, swiped for the right file, and then pointed it at the drone's reader. It registered and flashed in green. "Communication upload complete." I turned the drone right side up and worked the remote control. The drone lifted straight up, hovered above us onlookers. It started a rhythmic beep, indicating its search mode. The beep came from the drone, but was mirrored on my phone, sounding through my device's speakers. The drone's AI began to kick in and it went off, improvising its course. We heard the beeps, still rhythmically pulsating on my phone. The drone flew up and across the Detroit skyline and soon was out of sight. The 4 of us looked at my phone screen. I toggled between live street view, showing the vista from the drone's camera, to heat map view, which captured various data inputs from heat signatures to large physical movements, weather currents, and even other specific devices whose signals it could pick up. My screen showed the drone was in cloak mode for the time being, moving stealthily. We listened to the constant beeps. Sophia held my hand. "How long before it connects?" Jabril asked. Before I could answer, the drone's beeping accelerated, drawing our attention to the heat map which showed the icon of another drone. It was blinking green. The words flashed. "Counterpart, friendly." Seeing that information, I tapped a command to uncloak my drone. The beeps sped up. Soon they compressed into one long, sustained beep. My screen flashed. "Drone-to-drone transmission in progress." Seconds later, it read, "Two-way exchange in progress." Then it said, Exchange complete. The beeping ceased. Silence. The flight data from the drone revealed that it transmitted with the other drone high above the junction of I-94 and I-75 near Hastings Street. The area was a dead spot, with apparently little electric or human activity. That probably wasn't where the drone originated, but it was a data point for us. I noted the information in case it could be used for triangulating future flight patterns. Within minutes, the drone returned to the Packard plant roof. It hovered and then lowered right before us. We were eager to download the transmission. I opened up the belly compartment of the drone and scanned it with my phone. It clicked. A video recording opened up. The face of the White House National Security Advisor appeared.
Jabbari, I pray you're receiving this message. The obstacles to comms are now much more formidable. Your digital pigeon idea may be our only alternative. First, let me say that it's possible that this will be my last transmission as the National Security Advisor to the President. Not sure how things are going to play out. The President has made a decision that I have counseled against. In fact, almost all the Cabinet counseled against it. But, well, we're all in a precarious position here the way things have unfolded the past few weeks. The collapse of all U.S. airline companies was the straw that broke the camel's back. We were in negotiations with the delegation from the so-called People's Joint Republic of China and Nigeria for 3 days, to no avail. They had the upper hand and would not agree to any resolution that would allow us to have any input in this new financial system. They're holding the keys, and all the oil-producing nations of OPEC are on their side. We have little leverage. The RZQs you sent us to inject into critical economic infrastructure were helpful, but not enough.
The National Security Advisor paused, seeming to mull over his next words.
But we didn't want this to go nuclear. We blinked, Jabbari. We blinked. I'm sorry to report that the Chinese-Nigerian delegation required one thing to stave off the total suffocation of our economy. They said it was a symbolic purchase, but I don't believe that's the case. The President and 1 or 2 cabinet members believe this is our only shot at survival. The intelligence leaders and the legal council could not decide conclusively whether this transaction would offer any real strategic advantage to our adversaries, so they've argued that this is the only way to secure our future. I made my disagreement known. I got some foul looks in our last National Security Council meeting. I expect I'll be asked to leave the administration as soon as the sale is finalized.
What is he talking about? Sophia asked. I paused the video. I think I know, I told her, then pressed play again. The National Security Advisor's transmission continued.
Jabbari, I've been speaking with Agent Dunn, outside official comms. His counterintelligence assessment is that the Chinese intelligence breach into our system is not just technical and could only be facilitated by witting human assistance. How many people, we don't know. He's shared his view that a few intelligence officers exist who have proven they have not been compromised. You, of course, analyst Jasmine Hahn, and your old partner Chuck, who had been trying to prevent fabricated intel from spreading through the agency's system once he realized they were targeting you in your analysis. You're no longer a CIA officer, Jabbari, but you're still the best analytic mind the U.S. has on financial intelligence matters. As you've asked, I've agreed to authorize a team off the books to support you to lead the underground effort to push back this financial sabotage. This may be my last official act. You have your base in Detroit where I know you're protected. We'll need new intelligence operatives, new assets. I know you've got a network of contacts that you trust on the ground in Nigeria, Singapore, Belize, and Taiwan too. We'll have to adapt the intelligence tradecraft to this new situation, where China and Nigeria have sway over the data networks and the airways. where freedom of travel and communication is significantly constrained. Secure intelligence communication will require much more improvisation, as our drone prison drop has shown. But you've got something that others don't. The resources of the Mansa Protocol, all your RZQ. What you hold is very important, Jabbari. That private key unlocks the means to our future, but it also makes you a target. Few people outside the leaders and henchmen of the joint Chinese-Nigerian axis have access to that amount of funds. Whoever controls the private key to your RZQ wallet could make a play to challenge the geopolitical control of the axis. You will be hunted on your right and your left, above and below. Be careful. So, about this transaction which the US government has now authorized, in exchange for 24 million RZQs and the release of vital data needed to run our critical infrastructure, we have sold to the Axis the...
A loud bang sounded in the background of the video. The National Security Advisor leaped up and out of the screen. The camera stayed on the back of his chair, which swiveled 180 degrees.
"You're not authorized to be here!"
He yelled.
"Get out!"
A ramming sound rang out. The National Security Advisor screamed in pain. Then there were multiple grunts accompanying what sounded like a swinging bat hitting a body. A low muttering voice emanated from the speakers. Steps got louder. The voice became more audible. It was repeating,
"No naira, no peace. No naira, no peace."
The chair on the screen turned around, and a hand came into view. It tilted the camera up. It showed a teenage boy, Nigerian, with jaundiced, blank eyes. He had on a crisp, fancy, athletic tracksuit, which was zipped up. He wore a fitted, clean baseball cap and diamond rings in both ears. Looking into the camera, but staring past it, he said,
"No naira, no peace."
And the video recording ended. We all sat silent at the rooftop. The sky was now orange, not blue. My brother and sister were mulling over the new world I was introducing to them, even though I was physically now on their turf. Sophia's counseling presence exuded comfort and peace, but not much needed to be said. The seed of a new mission was planted. What broke the silence was a whirring sound, buzzing from the horizon. 2 red flashing lights on opposing wings. It was another drone, but not the one we had transmitted with before. It most likely was not friendly. I hurried to put my drone in the duffel bag and we bolted to the stairway for cover. We went inside, but cracked the door to listen for the drone. It didn't stop over the roof, evidenced by the buzz which got louder and then receded. Feeling the coast was clear, I peeked out and saw the drone floating away. I opened up the door fully and we came out to the open roof. It was still light enough for us to see the city. Honestly, the metropolis looked dead. Few signs of life besides the drones that we knew were surveying for their unseen masters. But from up there, the vantage point illuminated something I hadn't seen in my time growing up and my years since. The city laid out like a blueprint record of industry, its rise and fall. A place I had escaped for greener pastures. But the whirlwind of these events showed me how vulnerable the lush garden was to the changing winds. I had seen prosperity and corruption, abundance and constraint, all interwoven in Abuja, Kano, Singapore, and this city, Detroit, with its name for the French word for a strait, a narrow passage connecting 2 bodies of water. The city was my birth, and while from above it looked like bald concrete, I knew that down below My familial heart beat on its streets. It was my lifeline that I could not cut. Its local circumstance reflected the national future, and its destiny felt tied to the need to set right the global turmoil. The sun was setting. Looking out onto the horizon, I knew that our mission to save the world from total collapse would start within our country. And our mission to save the country would start right there at the place my father and mother, brother and sister called home. I glanced at my phone, swiped, and clicked. My wallet showed 50 million RZQs. I looked at Sophia and my siblings, then the skyline, and took a deep breath. I decided to dig in, plant my feet right there, and build security through intelligence and community. I would spend as much as I could strategically for good before the fraudsters took over the world.
So, intelligence analyst, this completes your orientation. This transmission is for your ears only. What has preceded offers all we know about the origin of the RZQ digital currency, pieced together from Jabbari Lincoln's transmissions and our other interviews and surveillance. Do not trust anyone with this information unless they share a private key confirming that they are read into this program and working on the right team. Jabbari Lincoln is key to the operation. Stay in the field and await the next transmission. Your digital wallet will soon receive the necessary funds for your leg of the operation. This is your Deputy Chief of Operations, signing off.
Meanwhile, a few miles off the coast of St. Bart's, the huge white mega yacht cut through the blue waves elegantly, buoyantly cruising the crests. The side of the vessel read in huge letters, "Serve the People." On the deck, the three men reclined with hats and shades in the sun. Cold drinks were by their side. Harold Smith, George Ikoy, and Inspector Nassim Oyo were also being attended to by female companions, apparently massage therapist, dressed for the occasion of sun and fun. Oyo held a satellite phone. It rang.
"Yes, Premier."
Oyo said, sitting up to attention.
"Yes, sir. Yes, I understand."
"The President?" Harold asked, sensing the importance of the call.
"Yes, from Beijing. The Ministry of State Security has authenticated the sale and it is being delivered to us."
"That was quick," George said, also springing up. His companion continued to massage his shoulders. "When will it arrive?" No sooner did he ask the question did they all sense a vibration emanating above, westerly. A light gray helicopter clad in the insignias of the Chinese Navy was approaching. It descended to the yacht's helipad, twirling wind and salt water about. The men held on to their hats. Soon, several Chinese naval officers emerged from the helo, carefully lowering a huge crate onto the deck. Oyo ordered some of the yacht's crew to retrieve the cargo and bring it down below. They sprung into action. 10 minutes later, the three men were settled in the ship's bar and game room. A billiard table lay at the center. Dart targets adorned the wall. The delivered item had been removed from the crate and set before them, leaning along the aft wall of the cabin. They eyed it curiously.
Is this really it?
George asked.
You bet your bottom RZQ it is,
Harold Smith said.
It is the original. Our client would require nothing less. And we have been waiting a very long time to get our hands on this.
How long? George asked.
Oh, only about some 230 some years,
Harold Smith replied, smiling with teeth, clenching a cigarette. He took a swig of his drink and grimaced. Then he pulled out one of the darts from the opposing wall. He got close to the item, lined himself up to it straight, and then took several steps back. He held up the dart and pulled his arm back, eyeing his target.
Yes, only about some 230 some odd years.
He closed one eye and shot the dart forward. It landed at the top of the yellow parchment, where the document's biggest letters in bold read, "We the People." He smiled about his good aim. He poured more fire water into his glass. He offered some to his partners. They accepted. Then they all raised their drinks in a silent toast, tapped glasses, and gulped down the spirits. They turned away from the document and toward the pool table.
Now who wants to wager on some billiards?
George asked.
Ah yes, let me get some of my RZQs back,
Harold said, pulling out his phone. The two racked up balls on the table. Just then, George's phone on the counter rang. He picked it up.
Yes, Baba,
George said. He listened for a moment, then smiled.
Baba, I am so happy for you. From here on out, do we all have to use your title?
He chuckled.
Okay, yes. Goodbye, Baba. Sir Peter Ekoy.
He hung up the phone. George and Harold proceeded with their game, smoothing the tips of their cue sticks. And Inspector Oyo, sitting in his chair, began to nod off, uninterested in their game, satisfied enough that he had added to his latest score, and satisfied that he had made it on the life raft of abundance, while much of the rest of the world was adrift, clinging to shipwrecks, in danger of drowning.
They said he was done for. They said he was on the run for some crime. They said he committed. They said he did it. They said he was persona non grata. They said he was out yonder, beyond the call of duty. They said it was dishonor. They said it was to avoid the trauma. They said that the best in their midst was a glitch, gorilla unglued. They said a switch fell through the cracks, so they pulled it. They said it was the facts. They said it was the check that bounced back. They said it was time. He said it was a line. They said it was crosswords. They said the crossroads were fine. He said the railroads make tracks on his back. He raised up out of Dodge his spine. They said he was in the wind. They said it was a cloud. They said the alibi was thin. They said pay him no mind. They said it's a chess game, and the one with the most pawns wins. They said it was checkmate. They said it was ixnay. They said it was clean. He said it was a scheme. He said it was murder. They said it was suicide, open shut case. He saw 187007 because he knew how numbers moved from 313 to MIT. They said it was like P-Rock. They said it was hard knocks. He said it was all talk. They said the letters of covert in action, but he read CYA. They said it was no play. He said no kidding. The earth was spinning and he wound up back on stage. They said it was intermission. He said it was a third act. He said it's a new mission. He said the play writes itself in intelligence. The spy game is aimed on attrition. Tunnel vision, he said he was thinking the locomotive light was blinking. He'll either get run over, forgotten, or they'll remember the name, Jabbari Lincoln.
The Jabbari Lincoln Files, Season 1, The Mansa Protocol. The Jabbari Lincoln Files is a Sine Curve Studios production. Story written and narrated by Yahya Jatta Fanusi, who also produced the sound design. The Deputy Chief of Ops is narrated by Farida Abdul Tawab Brown. The Jabbari Lincoln cover art designed by Marilyn Wu and Jasmine Manning. Sine Curve Studios would like to thank the following for constructive story feedback: Chandra Caldwell, Ross Tierney, James Brown, Farida Abdul Tawab Brown, Justin Vitfelt Matthews, Andrea Usim, Jamila Kaleri, Tam Hussein, Faisal Abdur Rahman, Imam Salim Mutman, the Babatunde Bays. For story writing consultation, Cameron Pasha, Sahir Vora. For banking and crypto consultation, Linda Jang. For media strategy, Stylist Akira's The Annie Agency, Scott Guerrero and Kathleen Chen. Intellectual property consultation by PatentInsider.co. And special thanks to you, all of the listeners who've been following this story. Stay tuned to this channel and take the feedback survey in the show notes so we can bring you more of Jabbari Lincoln in Season 2. Peace. But it's not over. No, we're not done. It's not over. They said it was a breeze. They said it was like keys. They said it was like keys locked out on leave. They said it was like leaves when they freeze, forsaken, falling degrees. Like trees, shaking all the branches, breaking, pruning the real from the faking. SOS, not saving souls, but saving their bacon. Their time was taken. Heartbreak aching, anticipating like pacing, appeal for grace and waiting, but they ain't saying Nathan. Unlike Hale, to the chiefs after thieves and frauds, his only regret was he only had one life to give to his country. After God, they said it was odd. They said it was a lost cause. They said it was gloss, career, suicide, press pause. It's lucky time, boys, but all bets are off. They said it was a toss, a flip, heads or tails, wreck or sails, trip of trails or trials. If the ship fails, who will survive will rise based on scales. From the distress of inner whales to the vinyl standing, the characters arc expanding and handing R's and Q's and pray to stick the landing. The new turf is worth it all, he heard the call. Give it all for the reward of the Mansa Protocol. Like that. Peace. Again, thank you everyone. Thank you all the listeners who've been with us on this journey of Season 1. Please stay tuned. Please go into the show notes and fill out the listener survey. That way we can get your input as we put together Season 2. And don't forget to go to JabbariLincoln.com, sign up there so we can stay in touch, and join the Facebook page, the Jabbari Lincoln Files fan group. Also go to Instagram and Twitter. Stay tuned to this channel. We hope to see you soon.